and welcome to the first day of the Iowa State Fair. Let me begin with a recommendation. Pork chop on a stick. Trust me, it's what's for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack. And I've already been down there. I want to say thanks to the Des Moines Register for giving us the opportunity to have this forum, and thank all of you for coming and taking a minute out of the way from some fried foods and rides just to hear a politician talk. But I think a lot of times you in Iowa, you hear a lot of politicians talk. You hear a lot of people come to your state. This time, 17 Republicans are coming to Iowa to ask for your vote and support in the caucuses. There'll be a handful of Democrats who will come as well. Hillary probably is not going to come. She'll email in her appearances. You see, I know the Clintons pretty well. I was born in Hope, Arkansas, the same town Bill Clinton was born in. People wonder sometimes, how in the world is it possible that so many politicians would come from one small town? The answer is, I don't know. But here's what I do know. That for the Republicans who are deciding how to vote, who to vote for, a lot of the questions are, is there anybody on our side that has a good opportunity to take on the Clinton political machine? Folks, I'm the only one who's ever done it, because every election I ever ran in Arkansas, every time, I didn't just run against an opponent. I ran against the entire political apparatus that the Clintons had built over a 25-year period. And I'm going to tell you something, it's formidable. I know most of you probably think that the most democratic state in the country is Massachusetts. Maybe you think it's Oregon or Vermont or Maine or New York or New Jersey, but you would be wrong. Because in the 1990s, the most democratic state in all of America was Arkansas. And when I was elected lieutenant governor, I was only the fourth Republican elected in 150 years. When I was elected lieutenant governor, I got to the state capitol, and they were so happy to see me, being the only Republican in the state capitol, that my door was nailed shut from the inside. Literally nailed shut. And by the way, it stayed that way for my first 59 days as the elected lieutenant governor of the state. That was my introduction to the hardball politics that the Clinton political machine knows how to play. Every time I was ever on the ballot, both Bill and Hillary Clinton came and campaigned for my opponent. I've never been bitter about it. It made me a better candidate, because here's the fact. I not only took them on, but I repeatedly beat them, and I lived to tell about it. That's why I'm here today. You'll hear from the other side that they've done such a great job running the country and the economy is in recovery. But everywhere I go across this country and right here in Iowa, I don't talk to people who say, yeah, the economy is recovering. Because I talk to people whose economy is not recovering. Last night I was at a pizza ranch. Of course I was. I was at a pizza ranch in Waukee, and a guy comes up to me. He's a contractor, owns a small business. He does landscaping. And I'd been talking about a guy that I'd met in South Carolina 3 weeks ago, a guy named Mark. And the guy in South Carolina named Mark, I met at the Fairfield Inn in Aiken, South Carolina at 6 o'clock in the morning. My team stays at the Fairfield Inn because it's a cheap hotel, and they got free internet and free breakfast. We spend your campaign money like you wish the federal government spent your tax money. We try to be frugal. So I'm down there at 6 o'clock in the morning for breakfast, and Mark is working the shift there for the Fairfield Inn, and he strikes up a conversation. We get to talking. Mark is a college-educated accountant, and 3 years ago, he was working as an accountant for a manufacturing company there in Aiken, South Carolina, when the company closed down and shipped all 300 jobs of that company to Mexico. 300 factory workers and front office people, of which he was one, all lost their jobs. Now Mark is working 3 part-time jobs, and with 3 part-time jobs, he doesn't make as much money as he used to make on the one job he once had in the factory. Mark's story is the story of 5 million Americans who have lost jobs in manufacturing since the year 2000. 60,000 manufacturing plants have closed in this country since the year 2000. And last night when I was talking to the landscape contractor in Waukee, he was saying that he could relate to Mark's story that I had told. He said, because that's mine. working 100 hours a week. Folks, that's a lot of work. And there are a lot of Americans who are sweating through their clothes every day. They're lifting heavy things, and they're not getting a lot to show for it. It used to be that if you would just get through high school, get a good job, and work hard, you could take good care of your family. You could move up in the middle class. Lord knows I was able to do that because of a hard-working dad who worked 2 full-time jobs. But with 2 full-time jobs could barely pay the rent on the little orange brick rent house that I lived in on 2nd Street in Hope, Arkansas. Guys, I'm not blue blood. My family did not come over on the Mayflower. My family's blue collar. We got dumped off the shores of Georgia after being dumped out of the debtors' prisons in Great Britain. My ancestry is not something that is all that noble. My dad always told me, he said, son, don't look very far up your family tree. There's some stuff up there you don't need to see. But let me tell you why I love this country. Because if a kid like me can grow up like I did, with parents who never had the opportunities of a great education. My father never finished high school. His father didn't. His father didn't. I'm the first male in my entire family lineage that ever graduated high school, much less went to college. If a kid like me can become the governor of a state and can aspire to be the 45th president of the United States, this is an amazing place to live. And I'm grateful to God to be in this country. But I've got a few years on me now, 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. When people say, why are you running for president? Well, sometimes I ask myself that. But I can tell you why. Because I want those 5 grandkids of mine to have the same kind of hopes, opportunities. I want them to be as optimistic about their country as I grew up being. And I want them to believe that America is the greatest nation on earth. And I want them to believe that that's true because it is true. And we have to fight for it to be true again. I'm not willing for us to be a second-rate nation. I want us to have the best military, the best economy, and the best standard of right and wrong morality that any country has ever had in the history of civilization. And that's why I'm running for president, because I want those grandkids of mine to love America and to have a great America to love. But if we're going to make this country great, we've got to make some big changes, not little things, not twist the screwdriver, tap the hammer. We have to make some truly major changes, like get the fair tax passed and quit punishing people for their work, and once and for all get rid of the criminal enterprise known as the Internal Revenue Service. Let's be rid of them. Let's get our military where it's strong again, where nobody wants to fight with it. The bully in your school when you were a kid, and I hope it wasn't you, but the bully in your school only picked on the kids he thought he could beat. He never picked on a kid that was so tough that he knew that would put the bully on his rear end. And if we want to keep America from having to go into a war, it may sound counterintuitive, but the best way to do it is to have the most robust, well-trained, well-equipped, best ever military in the history of the world that nobody on this globe wants to ever pick a fight with. But let me be also very clear when people say, what is the most important issue that this country? And some people ask, do you think the most important issue is the economy or is it national security? That's like asking me which wing of the airplane is most important, the one on the left or the one on the right. When I fly on a plane, I kind of like for both wings to be on there. It just flies better. Of course we have to get our economy going. People need to work. And we can't work when government regulation and taxation and litigation creates job migration, and folks are getting the jobs in China, Mexico, Japan, South Korea, and Indonesia, but not in the United States of America. I don't care whether they have jobs there, but I sure as heck care that people in this country have good jobs that pay good wages, lets them feed their families, and move ahead to the next rung on the ladder. We've got to make that a focus. You bet we do. And national security can't be separated from that. I'll secure the border within the first year, because we've got to do something about letting our country become an open door where we no longer control our border. Now, if you think it's presumptuous on my part to say we can secure the border in a year, I'm going to tell you that it can be done. 73 years ago, we built a road between British Columbia and Alaska, a 1,700-mile road, and we built it in less than a year. That was with the engineering capabilities of 73 years ago and doing the construction in the Arctic winters of the North. Of course we can secure the border, but you have to have a president that says, I'll do it and I'll make sure it gets done, and I will be a president that will get it done. That's a commitment to this country. But even if we have both wings of the airplane, I also believe you've got to have a steering mechanism. Otherwise, without a steering mechanism, two wings will just simply fly it to the crash site. And the steering mechanism for this country has to be a strong moral fiber that comes from what our founders said in the Declaration of Independence. We're in adherence to the laws of nature and to the laws of nature's God. Let us never apologize for who we are as a country that cannot be explained apart from the providence of God Himself. There is no other explanation for the United States of America other than His providence and intervention. And if we are going to invoke His blessing, as we often do, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Democrat or Republican running for president, here's something we always say at the end of our speeches. God bless you, and God bless America. Every Democrat says it, every Republican says it, but folks, I'm not sure how we fully expect to invoke God's blessing on this country if we continue the slaughter of unborn children in their mothers' wombs, 60 million of whom have passed away since 1973. Let's start acting like a civilized people rather than barbarians. Let's stop the slaughter. And when I hear people say, well, we'll defund Planned Parenthood, wonderful, that's terrific, we should do it. But let's do more than that. Let's not just end funding for this nightmare. Let's end the nightmare and make it so that when we ask God to bless us, He can look down from heaven and say, I will. I thank you very much.